sure my mic works. Gotta double check. Alright. Turn my levels up, make sure my levels sound like I'm a producer. Hold up. Are we back? Let's get to it. Let's get to it. We back. Hold up. Let me get my sounds out. Let me get all this shit up. Ooh. Chris. Alright. We back, baby. What's up? What's up, people? What's up, world? How y'all been? This is another episode of Dissect the Dialogue. Y'all should know me, y'all. Eric T. Back at it again. Let me turn this down real quick. Hold up! PSA, breaking news. Hold on. I should do a poem like what y'all think the secret news is maybe later, but I'm probably gonna do it. But hold on, let me make sure everybody sees it. Oh, he had to get it. He had to get him done. He had to get it. He came through with the samurai look. You see the bun. You see the vibes. You just had to do a little something, holidays. So had to treat myself right. But enough about me. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Okay, so I mean, I don't know what y'all think about this whole Kiki stuff. With her man. I don't know. Something about that is kind of scripted to me. Just a wee bit, right? Like some of that stuff may be, if I would say what was true, if I was being nice, I'd say like probably 5 to 10%. Other than that, the whole thing is bullshit. But what I don't think is not false is Cassie suing Diddy. Not that. I don't think they're lying about that. Damn, I look young as hell right now. Damn. Anyway, but that I don't think is fake. Nah, because we all know that there was a history that was going on. We know about that. We should know already. We already know that he's on some weird stuff. We think he on the other side, but nah, I don't think that's false. I think that's really a real thing, and I think whatever Cassie gets out of whatever she's suing him for, I mean, kudos to her, I guess. Weird thing. Yeah, they should have got rid of Puff a long time ago. All the damage he done the past 25, 30 years. But that's not the main focus of what's tonight. As I let this play out. The main topic what we're going to discuss is, I told you a lot of times when I do these discussions, it's usually based on real-time experience. And when I mean real-time, I mean whatever happened at the moment, that's what I usually go into, right? So, my girlfriend, y'all probably seen her on one of my episodes. She's a fanatic when it comes to Disney. I mean, we're like kind of polar opposites with like certain taste in things. Like she's a vegan, I'm not. She likes wearing baggy clothes. I like wearing clothes that actually, kind of fit me a little bit. I don't like wearing too much baggy stuff. She likes stuff that would be considered guy type, like shoes. I would consider stuff or admire stuff that people might say is maybe girly, but I'm comfortable in myself. I'm not gonna say like I wear dresses or makeup or nothing, but let's get off that. So, and also like me personally, I dabble in thrillers, I like crimes, I like some dry humor stuff. She likes the witty humor, but she also likes Disney. And when we was about to watch them on Disney Plus, because she wanted to watch them, we noticed that on the parental settings or whatever the controls, I probably sent the screenshot somewhere, but it was saying, do you want to switch this to TVMA. And I remember saying something like months ago before I saw that. I was saying like how, because they're saying the Kardashians might be on. I probably talked about it on one of my episodes. I forget which one. But anyway, I mentioned it. And I was going in detail how like, why is the Kardashians of all people on Disney Plus? Like, I thought this was like supposed to be like a family oriented, because the name, I know Disney made shit because they buying every goddamn thing. But the name, I was just, going into a Disney Plus, you're thinking it's like, because, everybody, Disney's known for like the family oriented stuff, the musicals, all that crap. And they may have some other stuff that they may own technically, throwing it in there, blah, blah, blah. Right? The thing that confused me was that why would they be, of course, like they, the Marvel, I was thinking when I saw it, I was like, why would they put this, but Marvel, so maybe they'll throw Deadpool in there. Maybe they'll throw shows like Punisher in there. Throw Logan in there. Excuse me, y'all. I've been ripping and running all day. But you got your mix in there. So I was thinking, okay, yeah, I can see how that kind of makes sense. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, sure. That fits. That fits. But what's gonna happen when Disney starts making stuff that's actually like imagine if Power or BMF was on Disney. Imagine if that was on there. And say that, I don't know, it just so happens to be unlocked to TVMA, and I don't know how, maybe your kid's like really, really young and they just so happen to stumble on a, say, hypothetically speaking, if they own that. Why am I yawning so much? If that was on there, then what's going to happen then? Then all of a sudden, when they start to emulate what they see, you start to be like, well, it's probably what you're watching. Well, you could say that, but it also could be what you're allowing your kids to watch. Right? That's the part of some, it's one of those situations where parents aren't being parents. They don't take accountability for what they allow their children to partake in or see or hear. Growing up, you used to seeing like your parents have certain parties and get-togethers, and you just so out sneak to see what the adults are talking about doing, whatever. You get a glimpse of that, and then you're not all the way in the mix of it, but you just get a glimpse of it, and then you just, go about your way. You may maybe tell your brothers or your friends about, some stuff you may have seen or heard of, and then you just go about your way. This is just a random thing, and I'll say the flip side of my point, because I know I can be long-winded. When I was growing up, I don't know, y'all probably should know my age now, I'm born 97, y'all do the math. But when I was growing up, certain songs that I would hear, right? Certain songs that I would hear on the radio, I would think that's the actual version. And what I mean by that is, I thought what I was hearing on the radio was the actual song. Damn, I thought what I was hearing was the actual song. It wasn't until I had free time to look up YouTube, and then they just so happened to have the dirty version of that song. So I'm like, what is the dirty version? What's this? And then next time I hear it, I hear some words that I didn't hear on the radio. But it was a good thing they did that, because the child was able to, especially for me, I was able to, okay, let me figure out what this is, not force feed it down my throat. So that's where censorship can kind of, come through in a positive way, but let's just break down what it is. So it says censorship is a suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, film, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security. And also says the office or position of censor. But let's just go with the first one. So that's basically what that is, right? Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with like making sure certain individuals of a younger age doesn't see everything, right? Because you don't want to force, you don't want to, kind of taint their innocence in a sense, right? On the flip side, you have situations where, for example, for those that don't know, I know y'all can't tell, even though one of my favorite genres, well, top two, hip hop and rock specifically, metal, new metal, all that. One of my favorite bands ever is Rage Against the Machine, right? When I was a kid, before they started making everything soft, there weren't no restrictions to when I would listen to them. Videos would play, hear this some edginess. Everybody knows their subject matter, right? They're pretty political, social commentary about, just what goes on in the world, kind of against the system in a sense, hence the name. But when I got older and when things started becoming, over the top with censorship, I'm trying to click on one of the songs. It's saying viewer discretion advised. Even though I'm listening to this thing, I'm not seeing it. But anyway, viewer discretion advised. Some like this song contains self-harm or suicidal topics, but it was like majority of the album, and not once on the album where they talk about anything dealing with suicide, unless it's like maybe like a few times in the lyrics, or nothing dealing with self-harm. I mean, they may have a few songs where they might have been violent, but nothing about the album was talking about like, it's not like the whole album was just, I want to slit my wrist Monday and then hang myself Friday. That's not what the album was. It was like that. Listen to Rage first album start to finish is not just like a suicide self-harm album. I think it was a way to shield people from hearing what they were actually talking about as far as like the corrupt politicians and what was going on in the world. On a sidebar, that stuff is censored, right? But listening to Sexy Red sing "My Coochie Pink, My Booty Hole Brown" is not censored or not restricted. That's not giving a viewer discretion. Where's that same energy that you have with that song, or like a Meg Thee Stallion song, or a Cardi B song where they're outright just talking about their genitals, their private parts, them being over the top sexually? Why is that not, oh, this contains this, that, and the third? So it's just confusing. Like, is there where do we draw the line when it comes to censorship? Is there a balance with censorship? What is the stuff that we really consider is good or bad for certain viewers? Because I think a lot of times people tend to pick and choose with what's being force fed to them, right? Growing up, you see different ratings of movies, right? You got your G, you got your PG, you got PG-13. Well, back then, PG-13 and R were almost like in a three-way tie back in those days, but then they figured it out how to make it work in the PG-13 R, and then you got the NC-17 if it's too much to be R. You know what movie was what, what subject matter they were talking about. If you wanted to bring your kids to see this, they would advise you to bring a parent or someone older to watch it. That way, you wouldn't feel bad. Like, For example, this is funny. I remember me and my older brother when we wanted to go to the movies, right? I think in two instances, I'm in two instances, but we were like teenagers, close to like the age that you're supposed to see technically certain movies, when very dark. But anyway, uh, we were telling our mom, my mom, right, that we was gonna go see this movie, but I think she knew, and I think that we knew that she knew that we weren't gonna see that movie because she can relate. She knows what it's like, when you're a certain age and you want to, see this, that, and the third. So, in typical fashion, of course, we kind of snuck our way in. But most people would think, oh, they're growing up too fast. They're not supposed to see this type of stuff. Well, I mean, if you're growing up, 8, 9 years old, let's be honest. When I was like a certain age, I probably already knew what porn was. I probably knew about 10 different curse words. I think I saw like my first gun for the first time around that age. I seen someone get beat up bloody pole with me. I saw blood at a young age, someone getting beat up bad. Like certain things, like you shouldn't let a kid see, but sometimes it could be forced, right? Sometimes certain kids don't even ask to like be put in like. It's kind of like when kids don't ask to be put in like abusive households or domestic disputes, in a way. It's like funny when I see parents like put their kids in like adult situations, right? But then when they talk about stuff that the adults do, they tell them to stay in the child's. That's one thing I always didn't like, the double standard with certain parents. From young, you put your kids in adult situations on a regular. If the parents were arguing with each other, one parent talk crap about that parent, and then you're automatically, it's like you're warping the kid into thinking your thoughts in a way. But then when the kid gets older and starts to preach, well, I heard different, and you didn't tell this. It's like you didn't. Then they lie. Then they say you don't know what you're talking about, or you're not supposed to. They say stay in a child's place. Well, how can I stay in a child's place if I see my two parents going at it blow for blow? Shit, blood splattering, glass breaking, teeth on the floor, probably. Like it's kind of like you kind of. It's like they say, and it kind of gets me kind of flustered a bit. Like you say, you preach, not allowing your child to see a whole bunch of stuff, this, that, and the third, or not putting your kids to see this type of stuff on TV and programming, listen to this type of music, things like that. But the environments that you put them in, it's almost like they have no choice. It's very much like a double standard. You say you're about this, but you do the total opposite. And I've never been a fan of, even though we're all prone to some flaws, I get it, but it's almost like you know what you're doing, right? You're putting your kids, in certain situations where they're like kind of forced to, partake in this. But our parents are responsible for what their kids watch. I mean, like I said, kids are always curious. They're gonna find out stuff regardless. Like I said, like just like some men when it comes to how they raise their daughters because they're so scared of like what they might become when they're older. Just like she's a human, just like anybody else. She's gonna eventually have sex. That's the harsh reality. Most fathers don't want to always want, and that's another thing. Fathers always want to see their daughters as these super virgins, like they're never gonna sleep with anybody, they're never gonna engage in sexual activity, things like that. But that's not real life. Like they're gonna engage in sexual activities. They're gonna partake in this, that, and the third. Okay, just because you're scared and don't want bad karma to come at you through your daughter doesn't change the fact that, people have to live their own life. People have their own mind. People have their own thoughts. And I think a lot of times people sometimes make up their own. Sometimes people have their thoughts made up for them. Let me say that. Sometimes people have their thoughts made up for them. And it's just basically like walking robots. Like you're programmed to believe everything you hear. You know, people pick and choose about certain stuff when it comes to people in different relationships. Like, not to make this a race thing, but like I said, they got a whole movie about Priscilla, who was 14 years old, messing with someone that was 20 in their mid 20s. Elvis, yes, look it up. And they're making a movie about this. But let them make a movie about Aaliyah messing with R. Kelly. They'll burn that shit to the ground. They'll say this is not appropriate or whatever. But constantly, plastering it on TV and media and infomercials and all that is okay. It's like, where's the line to where something's okay to talk about and then something is not okay to talk about? That's the problem with like most religions. They pick and choose what they want to talk about. There's so much crazy stuff that you can look at in the Bible that's not even talking. I'll do better. For those that have been in church before, right? You notice how the preacher, and get me wrong, right? Don't get me wrong. Make sure I'm correct about this. The Bible has 66, I don't know, it's weird saying books. I'll just call them, I'll just call them books. There's 66 books / chapters in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I've ever sat in a church setting when I was forced to go there. There never was a moment where I was like, I don't think a pastor's ever like gone through, or like a church ever gone through like a whole book, the whole Bible. Like when they say I read it from cover to cover, I think they're lying. I always think people are lying and saying when they read a book cover. Most people can't even like sit and read a Harry Potter book because they're gonna say it's too long, or like a Lord of the Rings book, or like shit, any book period nowadays. Motherfuckers don't want to read shit, but they can say all that crap, saying like, yeah, I read it cover to cover, but they can't read. So some people can't even sit through a 30-second ad, but they said they read a Bible cover to cover. But not to get off track, there was like one story in there that I forgot to mention. Something about, I guess the guy in the Old Testament was punishing some dude for sleeping with his dead brother's wife, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Sleeping with his dead brother's wife. And I guess God punished him because I guess he released not in her. He released somewhere else. And I'm thinking like, why did I never hear about this shit? But I'm guessing they're thinking, but you know what they'll probably say. Well, it's not much to talk. We can't really talk about that type of subject matter in church. It's too inappropriate for kids. But you could tell your kids about a man that was beaten, whipped, nailed, hands and feet, blood gushing, entrails falling out of his body. You can talk about that though. You could talk about David swinging a big rock at Goliath's head and beheading him. You could talk about that though. You could talk about all these different stories. Moses him murdering somebody. You can talk about all these different stories. But things like that, like the one I mentioned, is inappropriate. That's what I mean by like, do we really know a line between what we censor and what we don't? Because I think sometimes, while some things need to be kept, a little hidden where you're not supposed to tell the full scoop of it, especially not forcing it on kids, at the same time, you do need to tell them exactly what the real truth is. And not backpedaling and trying to do some sort of pseudo, you know, trying to like pretend like, oh, you were just trying to make sure our kids aren't in brainwashed or whatever, or easily influenced by what they see on TV. Well, it's like kids gotta learn. Kids aren't getting this from other kids. They're getting it from the adults that y'all so say are supposed to be the people that teaches them not to do the bad stuff that y'all are preaching to them. So what exactly are you trying to put together? Doesn't make much sense, right? Or is it just me? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm brainwashed. But about this Disney stuff, how would this Disney, parental stuff, how would it change? Well, what would this do being pushed to the masses? Now, as far as what Disney do, I know Disney's going to do what they do. But I'm just saying, just in hindsight, just make sure that you don't do anything that poisons it. I mean, there's already, innuendos in these kid movies anyway that, some adults picked up and then they think the kids is not going to catch until, they have to reiterate it. And then the parent has to be like, don't say that. Like, which is weird because, like, I always got that too, like, growing up too. Like, my parents would say some crazy stuff, right? Like, last story. But the last part did not get to my final thoughts. But the first time I learned what twat meant, when I learned what twat meant, right? I remember my dad, I guess, when he came home and he didn't like the smell of, I guess, the house or whatever. And he was like saying, man, it smelled like a hot twat in there. And when you're a kid and you hear something, you kind of want to know what it is. Otherwise, you're stupid. So, me being the curious kid I was saying, Dad, what's a twat? He was like, means a hot onion. Like, so you're saying it smells like a hot onion? And he was like, okay, you can stop. I'm like, how are you getting mad at me when you said a word? Like, it's confusing. You said the word. I'm asking you a question. You lie about something. I'm like, then I question if that's even what it means. Then you get mad at me. I'm like, that's what I mean by like the censorship stuff. You can't get upset when certain kids watch some stuff. They're going to wonder what it is because they don't know what it is. Then you get mad at them just because they asking you, the parent, I don't know, they're like the only adults they see every day besides the people you force them to because you're indoctrinated to send them somewhere where they don't know nobody there. But, it is what it is. But, yeah, it's getting out of hand. So at this point with the censorship. But final thoughts. I think what, me being an adult and eventually I'll, have kids one day. I mean, I got nieces and some nephews, but I want to at least let them know that this shouldn't have to, have to be in a world where they have to be sheltered with everything. I'm not saying give everything to them at once, but if they have questions about what they're seeing and what they hear, you shouldn't get mad at the kids because they're asking you what they've seen or heard. Then when they reiterate it, you get mad at them, like you're not supposed, or you spank them, which I get frustrated. I mean, they could call us a sensitive generation about. I think just there's a time and a place where you can discipline your child, but just hitting them just because you're frustrated with your life, and so you're trying to put your frustrations out on your child is kind of cowardice to me. Just me, just my opinion. Some people may say it otherwise. They may try to use the Bible and try to justify it. I think it's all connected to slavery. To be honest, you could be tough on your kids if they get out of line, straighten them out. But I mean, like, if your child looks like they just got in a fucking bar fight, then that's like a whole nother story. But not to get long with it. You shouldn't have to shelter your kids by what they see. But at the same time, don't give everything to them all at once. Which I think was going on with a lot of these what you call it? These social I guess you could say these social justice wars where they think that they're too good to, take a joke to certain things. Those type of people. They think they're too good to laugh at one another. They like to have like this chip on their shoulder, like you shouldn't talk about this stuff or you shouldn't show this to this kid or whatever. But I guarantee you, they was probably the biggest bullies when they were in school. They was probably saying a plethora of racist, xenophobic, homophobic jokes. I guarantee you. So I just kind of get a little annoyed when I see that. Like just a little, it's like just a wee bit. Like it's like crazy. Like a kid is supposed to, figure out. They just came into the world. They're supposed to know how things work. And as a parent or parents, you're supposed to let them know, oh, well, this is this, but I don't think you should be saying that. Don't punish them just because they just learned something and then you just want to ridicule them. Like that's not cool. Like you shouldn't do that. And the kids shouldn't have to, be forced to listen to some stuff that's obviously inappropriate, but then when it's some stuff that's actually educational, you want to censor it and call it like hate speech, or it's not really, viewer discretion. They may talk about these stuff. No, they talk about stuff because it's gonna be, the kid is gonna be able to take abreast of that and learn how to, use that and put that in his repertoire and things like that. I think that's what it is. I think that's what people are mostly afraid of. I think they want to keep us dumbed down and don't want us to see certain stuff that may be a little uncomfortable. But you gotta be uncomfortable in order to learn. In some ways, sometimes pain could be a good teacher, and sometimes embracing fear is a sign of growth. That's what I mean. It is what it is. You can't run away from something just because it's too much to handle. It's going against everything that you say you've learned and mastered, but teach his own. But let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all think there's a thin line, or is there a balance between censorship, or is it just like a cop out for people to just, for some stuff to not get out, for some truths to not be fed into the right ears, right? Wisdom to be fed in the right places. Let me know what y'all think. But other than that, like, comment, subscribe to my channel, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Amazon, the whole shebang. Y'all know where I'm at. Like, comment, subscribe, and till next time, peace.